Saturday morning. They say the secret of success is to show up. So you've done the first part. As it says there, I'm here to explain to you how the Investment Club network works. I've been in the business of, Diana? It's easy. Yeah. All right, so what we want to do this morning is we want to go through our system, and then we want to invite you to consider joining the investment club. If you like what you see, what is an investment club? It's a group of people that meet once a month with us online on a webinar. We put in a small amount of money in the kitty every month, and we figure out how it all works, and then when we see it working well in the club, we go off and do it for ourselves. All right. So in the investment club network, we teach you to invest and we coach you to success. Before I kick off, let's just go around the room briefly. If you want to give your name and profession, and tell me if you've had any experience in the stock market. I just want to get an idea in the room what level you're at in terms of knowledge of how the stock market works. So let's start with your good self. Michael, is it?
I'm a sales development director, also I've got a development company. Yes, I've been involved with investments, but off and on for long, probably 20 years or more.
Okay, okay. And mostly in the US market or the British market?
World markets.
World markets, okay, okay. And do you currently own some shares?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things that can help with Michael today is that he has the asset, he's bought the asset, he owns the shares, but I'm going to be able to show Michael today how he can generate a significant monthly income from his asset and use that income to go ahead and buy more assets. So there in turn, because he's got more assets, he can collect more income. So I'm going to show him a very powerful monthly compound interest system that we've been using for over 20 years, based on what I learned from Tony Robbins back in 1996 at the Wealth Mastery in the market.
So I'm Dieter. I actually invest in CFDs, but I have shares as well. And yeah, I'm interested in the model.
Good, good, brilliant, thank you.
Daniel, not an investor in any sort of stocks, shares, commodities at all, so brand new to me.
Cool.
Keen to learn.
Good, in the right room. Tracy, do you want to say a few words?
I'm Tracy. I'm a teacher, but I haven't got any, like Dan. I'm not investing at all. I'm not in investments.
Okay, you can appraise me as a teacher. Do you want to say a few words?
Yes, hi everyone, I'm Alex.
Alex Jr.
Alex Jr., yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm Alex's son. I've invested in several shares, funds, across all sorts of different markets.
Good.
So I have a bit of a dab.
Good, brilliant, thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicholas. I'm currently a student, but I've been buying and selling shares for like over a year now.
Okay, online as well?
Yeah.
In the US market, is the US?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, again, we can show you how to generate an income.
I'm Alex Senior. Yes, I have owned and bought shares. I don't currently own shares in anything. And you know, I work in the recruitment industry. That's my background. I've actually recruited and trained in the city and stockbrokers and been involved that way.
Okay.
So you know, quite fascinated to get on board really.
Good, thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve. About 10 years ago, maybe more than that, I did a course which was doing trading with the FTSE, predominantly derivatives, and long story short, hardest thing I ever did in my life, and lost my shirt basically.
Yeah.
That's the upshot of that. But in the process, the baptism of fire with that, I know that it is that's the place to be if you want to make money. I know that. So I'm still here. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't frighten me.
Good, yeah. You're not once bitten, 22 times.
No, but I have to say that it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I've walked down the stairs, made 12 grand, and I've like collapsed in a heap where I've lost 12 grand. Like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very tough, like, because I read your book, like selling derivatives and economics, etc. It's suicide unless you know what to do. Or you're a big player, or you work for somebody else.
Okay.
As your own account, it's suicidal, isn't it?
If you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Sure.
So clearly I didn't.
There you go.
Yeah, my name is Hannah. I met Owen in 2012, and since January 2013, I've been trading my own account. And I learned that if I apply the system, I get a consistent income every month, and I can live out of it actually. When I don't apply it, which I didn't, well. My account went down. Therefore, if you want to know how to do it and how not to do it, I'm your expert.
Very good.
And now I teach with Owen, and we teach worldwide.
Cool. All right, so for those of you who said you have no experience, let's be a bit curious for a minute, right? I've never traded the stock market. If you looked at the world, and you looked at the 8 billion souls running around the world right now, and you were from another planet, and you said, right, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the wealthiest people of them all? What you would discover, what Tony Robbins discovered when he did a lot of research, after the markets crashed in 2008, Tony says, well, who the hell's making money on this planet? And he went on a mission for 5 years. He interviewed 50 of the wealthiest people on the planet. And then in 2014, he published a book called Money Master the Game. And in that book, he actually has the transcripts of the interviews of the 11 richest men on the planet and one woman back then. What he discovered is they're all in the stock market. So if you're from another planet and you say, right, well, all of the richest people on the planet are trading the stock market, then it stands to reason everybody should be in the market because that's where the action is. Whereas in my experience, after 20 years going around all over the world teaching people and interacting with people, the majority of people run a mile away from the stock market, which doesn't make sense. There's a serious disconnect in society when all the action is in the stock market, that's where all the money is and that's where all the wealth is, yet everybody runs a mile away from it. So what I'm here today is to help people get over that, if you like, barrier to the market. Is that fair enough? So let's just throw out a few ideas of why, especially for those of you who've never been in the market, what's been holding you back? What are the things that sort of say, oh, I want to go there, but this is stopping me? So do you want to start there, Dan?
Yeah, for me, knowledge, I would say.
Okay. So lack of knowledge, yeah, that would be a key factor we hear all around the world. What else? Anybody want to throw out another idea?
Fear of loss.
Yeah, fear of loss. Yeah. What else? Any other things that hold you back? Two things that I get told all the time is I've no money to invest and I've no time to invest. I've no time to figure it out and I've no time to invest. I want to kill those two things with you right from the get-go this morning, because in our investment clubs, our members invest on average, 100 euros per month, and on average 1 hour per month. So if you're sitting here this morning and say, I could put in an hour a month into this project, and I could put in 100 euros a month, or 88 sterling a month into this project, then you're in the right room. And I'm going to show you some magic from those simple numbers that our clubs have achieved and are continuing to achieve. And how do they do it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you our system of how they can turn something as small as 100 euros a month and 1 hour per month, how you can leverage that seriously. Because when you're in a club of 20 people, if Michael here is in the club and he's put in an hour a month, we're in a club together of 20 people. Imagine there's 20 people in this room. And he diligently puts his 1 hour a month into the project. Alex puts his hour a month, Dan puts his hour a month. We've actually got 20 hours work going on here. Yet we personally are only putting in 1 in. Everything we do, we divide by 120. The cost of trade in the market, cost of commissions, the cost of knowledge, cost of charting software, whatever costs we have of being in business for ourselves in the stock market is automatically slashed by 1/20. That's a power of leverage that we want to share with you here.
The brokerage fees on buying and selling shares.
Yeah, that's all 1/20 if you're in a club. There are brokerage fees, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's actually pro-rated down.
Yeah, so the broker we use is they just charge $12.95 regardless of the volume. So it doesn't matter whether you buy a million shares.
Discounted because you're buying
Yeah,
more.
so divide that by 20.
So because you've got 100.
Because you've got 20 people, yeah?
Yeah.
Exactly. And instead of you just putting in a Mickey Mouse 100 euros a month in the market, as a group you're putting in 2,000 in the market. Yeah?
Yeah.
And so after 10 months you've got 20 grand in the market. After 100 months you've got 200 grand in the market. So you see how it starts really small, but becomes significant. I'm going to share with you some clubs that start really small and are very big now. Okay, so let's just go through a few slides. Just sit back, relax, take in loads of notes. I'm going to have a good Q&A at the end. You can go home and think about it, and if you want to join, just let us know. So, my story began in 1996. I attended Tony Robbins' Wealth Mastery program. In that program, he literally, did 6 long, typical Tony Robbins days, like 6 a.m. in the morning through till, 1 or 2 o'clock in the next morning. In 6 days, he put us in front of 24 of the richest people on the planet back then in 1996. People like Sir John Templeton, who was the 11th richest man in the world, Peter Lynch, the famous Fidelity, one of the most highest performing mutual funds on the planet by Peter Lynch. He was one of our teachers. The founder of Body Shop, Anita Roderick, was there. So all of these captains of industry distilled their decades of knowledge and experience into days. But I'll never forget a group of grannies there called the Beardstown Investment Club. They were from a little town in America called Beardstown. Go and Google them yourself. And they were a group of grannies that were retired and literally decided to come together and invest in the stock market. And they had done something like 34% return that year in the market. There was a little 70-year-old guy called Matt Cedar who'd done something like 40% return. Okay, so all Tony Robbins did is he plucked the best investors on the planet right at that moment and put them in a 6-day seminar. So this is the genesis of the information I'm going to share with you. And so I took that information home with me, and part-time alongside my day job, I traded the stock market. The beauty about the stock market is open on 9 o'clock at night. 4 p.m. in New York is 9 o'clock here. So you can have a day job, you can come home from work, you can get a bite to eat, you still can access the market for a couple of hours in the evening. Most of our investment clubs meet in the evening online, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And so I was able to, within a year and a half, make more money part-time from the stock market, selling call options on my shares once a month. My income from my call options was more than my salary. And so I did it for another 6 months just to make sure, and then I quit after 2 years, my day job. And people thought I was crazy. I had a company car, a highly paid executive of a company called Norsk Hydro, who was running the salmon farm. Salmon farm back then was very lucrative. We could produce salmon at £3 a kilo and sell it for £5 a kilo and make £2 a kilo profit. 1 year we turned over 10 million, made 2.5 million profit. We almost went on the Dublin Stock Exchange before we got bought out by the Norwegians. That's how big the concern was then. So everybody thought I was crazy leaving that safe, secure, pensionable company car type operation. I said, look, I found a way to make more money with less time. And they said, well, show us how it works. I said, why don't we form an investment club? 55 punts, this was even before the euro, 55 punts each into the market. I said, we're going to need about a £5 each to buy some decent information, some trading software, some charting software, and we'd be in business in the market. So that's how we started. In 2001, it became a business. We turned it into a company. And since then, 25,000 people have gone through our 2-day program all over the world in 1,200 investment clubs, 52 countries, 15 different languages. And we've also gone into schools and continue to go into schools and teach kids around 15, 16 for free how our system works. This was my profession. We used to take a large salmon, strip the eggs from them, incubate them in freshwater tanks for a year, put them in sea for 2 years, and this proves I actually did have hair at one stage of my life. This is me proudly showing off my salmon. That's what I did for 12 years. So if you're sitting in the room and says it must be okay for that guy, he must be an expert in finance or accountancy or banking to be successful in the stock market, I can share with you, I knew nothing. I was just a scientist that could do a bit of scuba diving and knew how to grow salmon. That's all I knew when I came across the stock market. And I know in my heart and soul, each and every one of you in the room can be successful in the stock market. You just need to follow a system. Okay? So, this is where we live now. The reason I show this photo is my son Paul and my daughter Kira at age 6 and 8 did our 2-day program. And at age 8, my son started to trade the market for real. True story. One night, without me knowing it, he went into my account. He bought 1,000 shares of Oracle Corporation at $12 a share, not a bad deal at the time. I didn't know he did it. I looked at my account next day at 2:30 in the day when the stock market opens, 9:30 New York is 2:30 here. Looked at my computer, I saw 1,000 shares of Oracle, I didn't buy them. Rang up the broker and I said, how could this happen? How could someone get into my username and password and then my second password to actually do some trade? And they said, well, the IP address is your part of the world, it must have been you. So my son came home from school at 3 o'clock, half an hour later, and I said, son, did you buy 1,000 shares of Oracle last night? He says, you know, Dad, I might have. True story. So I said, right. I said, we'll give you a simulator, which I give each and every one of you here in this room. If you choose to join us, part of your education process is we give you a simulated account to practice our system. Within 6 months, he turned 100,000 into 130,000, just pretend money. So then I give him $500, the bare minimum any one of you needs. If any of you wants to be in business right now, buying and selling shares in the stock market, you just need $500. What's that, about 400 quid? And you're in business. So we give him $500. Within 2 years, he turned it into 2,500. Then I give him another 5,000. That's all I've ever given him. Today, he's 22 years of age. No, 24 now. And he's in business with me. We have a company called Fast Trading, father and son trading. And I have a lot of high net worth clients that trade with me. They think I'm trading the money. He's trading the money. He's got 40 years experience in the market now. We've taught all over the world. This is me in Brazil in Recife, in front of 3,000 people. This is down in Sao Paulo with another 3,000 people. This is a guy, I'm teaching English, he's translating into Portuguese. This is again in Sao Paulo. 22 years ago, I invited Tony Robbins to come to Ireland. We finally got him. After many failed attempts, we got him to come. This is me introducing Tony Robbins on stage in January 2016 in front of 3,500 people in Dublin. We have clubs in Estonia, Poland. Anna organised this event for us. Anna Rodriguez in Madrid. This is 50 people being taught in Spanish in Madrid, Italy, UK, Las Vegas, Wales. This is an interesting chap here. This guy left school at age 16. My next door neighbour, he had a property business. Every time he came home, we used to go for a run. I used to keep telling him about the stock market, but he was up to here and probably didn't want to listen. The property crashed. He lost everything. This was a course in Cardiff on Thursday and Friday. He sent his wife on Thursday. I says, why are you not coming on Thursday? He said, I'm in the High Court. I met him on Friday morning at the course. I said, what happened in the High Court yesterday? He says, I've just lost my last 3 million. He scraped together 25,000 to get started, him and his wife. Today he makes about 10 grand a month. He pays himself 4 grand a month. He's dyslexic, left school at 16. He was about to be kicked out of his house with his 2 young kids. Okay? So he was under pressure. But look at him sitting on the edge of his seat. That guy never did anything at school. As soon as he knew there was money, he paid attention. So we work with, if you want to check out the company we work with, there's Neil Ballard, a highly respected accounting firm in Cardiff. Lewis Ballard, check them out. He's our point of contact in. They just won a national award 2 years ago for one of the top accountants in the UK. This is me in Sweden. We've got 6 investment clubs in Sweden. I think Steve, you heard them.
Yeah, yeah.
Steve is on the webinar. We meet those clubs back to back once a month. I've done work in Australia, done some work in Africa. Now, this is a 2-day intensive seminar. This is a 15-minute coffee break. This lady asked me a question. Before we know it, they're not interested in coffee anymore. They want to learn more. Can you see the sheer hunger to learn in those faces? I always say to people when I go around the world, the Africans are better off than us. They have no credit card system. They have no car loan debts. They have no mortgages. They don't have any of those complex financial products. They're at zero, can only get better. When I deal with most of you guys, most guys are deep in debt. I got to take you out of debt to zero, then we can make some serious money. Okay. This is down the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Alex Hogg did a company called MoneyWeb on the stock exchange. I always say to people that when the Africans heard I could teach them how to make money, they came running after me. That's what's not going on here. Anybody here run a marathon? Any marathon runners? 2 marathon runners, brilliant. 3 marathon runners. Have you heard of the Comrades Marathon? This is 56 miles. Imagine after doing your 26 miles, they say you're not finished, you've got another 30 miles to do. This is a very famous event in South Africa. This is 28 miles done, halfway, 28 miles to do. 12,000 people start that race. Everybody had to have done a marathon that year or you're not starting. Your qualification is to have done a marathon. 2,000 failed to finish and 2 people died along the way. It's an extreme event. I always say to people that my definition of commitment is you do the thing or you die in the process. So when I stand in front of you here today and I say to you, which I've been saying for 20 years, that I will support you in your effort to master the stock market, that if we form an investment club together, that you will give up on you before I give up on you. That's what I mean. Okay. This guy, Chris Elphick, who used to run our operation in Johannesburg, he had done this event 8 times before. He told me exactly how to train, how to prepare, how to eat, and we successfully crossed the line and achieved it. And so that's what my message for for you tonight is that, or this evening, we have made all the mistakes you can make in the stock market. There's no need to make them. Just follow a system that we refined over 20 years. This is me giving cash prizes to kids in schools for being the best trader. Now, here's the guru in the market. You've all heard of Warren Buffett, yeah? Every year, we go to his AGM. Every year, we sit at his AGM and we take loads of notes. Warren Buffett is famous saying, when all feel fear, you should feel confident, and when all feel confident, you should feel fear. So what does he mean by that? What he says is the stock market is driven by human emotion. That's what Sir John Templeton taught us 23 years ago at Wealth Mastery. The stock market is always going up and down. It's driven by two things. It's driven by fear, and it's driven by greed. And that's all that happens. It's just an emotional roller coaster. Well, Michael, what would you say is the average fluctuation between the average price? If you bought a share for $20 and it happened to be the average price that year, what is the typical fluctuation between the 52-week high and 52-week low of every share in any stock exchange in the world? The average
around 20%.
Around 20%. It actually is 50%. The stock can go up 50% from the average and down 50% from the average in any one calendar year. So the good news is you could invest 20 grand to buy 1,000 shares, and then it could go up to 30 grand. But the bad news is it might be only there for 1 week. It could also go down to 10 grand, which is the bad news, but the good news is it might be only there for 1 week. The rest of the time is spent going up and down between 10,000 and 30,000. And that's why most people don't invest in the stock market, because they can't handle the emotional roller coaster. If Michael invested 20 grand in the market, and I said to Michael, how's that investment going 6 months from now, when it's sitting at 10,000, here's what's happened to Michael psychologically. Psychologically, he's at his worst moment in time. He actually thinks that it's going to continue to go down. He thinks it's going to go to zero, and he thinks it's going to go out of business, and then he usually sells, because he can't see any way out. He doesn't realize that the point of worst pessimism is the actual maximum potential gain. And likewise, the reason why most people don't sell is because it goes from 20 to 30, and they say, oh, it's going to go to 60 now, and they don't sell. They think it's going to go to the moon, and nothing goes to the moon. If it goes to the moon, it'll go up and down. Okay? And so that's why most people do not sell at the top when they should, and don't buy at the bottom when they should. And that's exactly what this man is saying. When the stock market collapsed in 2008, Warren Buffett went on record. He says, in my whole life, he's 88 years of age now, he's been immersed in the market for his whole life. He says, I've never seen so much value in the market. And what did he do? He took two companies. His own money, not Berkshire Hathaway. He's got $400 billion of Berkshire Hathaway, which he started from scratch. But his own money, put his hand in his pocket, he looked at two companies. He looked at General Electric, which was trading at $40 before the crash, and fell all the way down to $6. And he invested $5 billion of his own money in General Electric. Goldman Sachs was another company, was trading at $250, went all the way down to $75, and he invested $3 billion of his own money. Okay? And the whole world thought the capital system was going to collapse. They were queuing up in the Northern Rock banks to get the money. Everybody and his mother thought the whole capital system was going to collapse. And he had the confidence, when everybody felt fear, he felt very confident. Goldman Sachs, what's it trading at now? We'll be back up over $300. And General Electric went back up to around about $30. Currently back down around about 12, but he sold it up at 30. So he turned $6 into 30. He turned $5 billion into 25 billion. He's a phenomenal character. He started at age 11 in 1942, right in the middle of World War II, right when the newspaper headlines around the world were Armageddon. Imagine what it was like to be living in 1942 in the middle of World War II. A young pup collected some money from delivering newspapers, took $114, all the money he had, and bought 3 shares in 1942 when the world was going to end. And today he's worth about 88 billion. About 7 or 8 years ago, he gave away 37 billion, and before you knew it, notepads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got one at the back.
Is there any notepads?
Yeah, I'll grab you one.
Yes. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you.
You got a pen?
Yeah, got
Yeah.
one.
He wrote the largest check for charity in the history of the planet gave away 37 billion, and the next year he made 40 billion back. As quick as he's given it out now, it's coming back in again, because he's created a compound interest machine, which is phenomenal, and I'll share with you. In fact, if you actually look at him, he has spent, right now, if you look at the Berkshire Hathaway Fund, which he started with his partner Charlie Munger, 55 years ago, started from scratch. Today it's worth 400 billion. 130 billion of that is privately held funds. 170 billion is publicly traded companies that you and I can buy. And he's got 100 billion sitting in cash because part of his business is insurance, and he wants to make sure he can honor the payouts if there's a hurricane hits and knocks Florida flat. So of that 170 billion that he's traded in the stock market, he started with 70 billion. So he's turned 70 billion into 170 billion. He's made 100 billion in the stock market, while most of you have been scratching your belly your whole lives. That's what he's done. Okay? So we go and listen to him speak for 7.5 hours every single year. This is a group of 14 leaders from 6 different countries: Spain, Norway, Sweden, Wales, England, Ireland, and Poland. That's our leaders we take with us to hear Warren Buffett. This is Warren Buffett at age, he's 88 now. This is his partner Charlie Munger at 95. These two guys should be in old people's home drooling away. These are the brightest minds on the planet. Bill Gates sits in the front row with his left hand and takes notes for 7.5 hours to listen to these guys speak. The second richest man in the world is sitting in the front row learning from the richest man in the world. Okay? So if you want to join us, we will be leaving Dublin on the 3rd of May. We'll spend all day the 4th of May listening to his wisdom. He fills a stadium with over 40,000 people. You could hear a pin drop for 7.5 hours. It's Woodstock for investors. All of the founder of Vanguard, if anybody heard of Vanguard, Jack Bogle is in the front row as well of this event for the year. So it's a fact by age 65, 95% of people are either dead or dead broke. It's just a fact. You look at the poor, look at the planet, look at the 8 billion people on the planet. I'm sorry to tell you, 95% of those people will never make it financially. They spend their whole life struggling. They'll never get to financial freedom. The only way to become financially free is to figure out a way that money works for you. What's wrong with us in society is we've been brainwashed. We're told, go to school, be a good boy or girl. Go to university, get a degree. Go and get a safe, secure job, and you'll be fine. Okay? We have been programmed and brainwashed to get money, to work for money. We see money as our master. We get out of bed to go to work for money. We work for it, it is our master. The day you flick a switch in your brain and you say, no, money must be my slave and it must work for me. That's the day you start to become financially free. So, Alex Jr., tomorrow morning when you wake up, first thought should be in your mind is, how can I get money to work for me? That's when you become financially free. It's as simple as that. Here's how investment clubs work. It's a group of individuals that come together and say, yeah, we're fed up. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. We want to figure out a better way. We want to master the stock market. We're going to play as a team. We're going to meet once a month on a webinar for an hour. We're going to put a small amount of money into a kitty. We back with Royal Bank of Scotland, the VFX Financial, down at Aldgate, down by the Gherkin. If you want to check them out, this is who we bank with. All of our club members around the world put their individual money into the club bank account. They don't give the money to us. They don't give it to anybody. They put it into their own club, owned by, controlled by them. Everything's done by democracy. Once a month, the club treasurer moves the money into the club trading account, owned by, controlled by the club members. Everything's done by democracy. They get on with the business of compound interest, and then later on they'll be paying themselves a dividend. That's how investment clubs work. Simple as. Every club has got a clear plan. Each individual puts in 100 euros per person per month. We set them a target of making 4% a month. They will not make 4% in the beginning. Why? Because they're all rookies. They're all brand new. They have to go through an education process. They have to go through an experiential process. But after about a year, when the club hits $25,000, and that's an important figure, after they've hit $25,000, they can make around about 4% a month. It takes a year for them to get there. That gets interesting in the beginning.